Have you ever felt that you use the word mucho well? Mucho? If so, buckle up because I'm about to share 9 native ways to say mucho and have you speaking like a local in no time. Make sure you stick to the end because I'm going to be sharing my personal expressions that I use in daily conversations. So, mucho, like in English, many and much, is so useful and so common because it allows you to express quantities and degrees. But let's learn some expressions so you can sound more natural. The first one that you want to learn is un montón. Again, un montón. Un montón allows you to measure nouns. These are things, people, etc. You can also use it to measure actions. So it works with verbs and nouns. The good news for you is that un montón doesn't change. You're going to use it like this, no matter if you're talking about one thing or two things. Let me show you some examples. Tengo un montón de tarea. I have a lot of homework. Laura se enojó un montón. Laura is very upset. In this case, the translation doesn't match because you guys in English use another verb. But you can use un montón as a synonym of mucho. The next one that you want to use is un chorro. Again, un chorro. Un chorro is extremely popular in Mexican Spanish. It's a little bit more casual, but you can also use it to talk about nouns or verbs. For example, tenemos un chorro de trabajo. We have tons of work. Esa peli me gusta un chorro. I like that movie a lot. Really? Is it good? In Mexico, we have this variation. It's a little bit more informal, but you can also add it to this list. Listen because it's a little bit tricky. Un titipuchal. Again, un titipuchal. Un titipuchal is another way to say mucho in Mexican Spanish. The next one you want to add to your vocabulary is un mogollón. Un mogollón is only used in Spain. You can also use it to measure things, nouns, or to measure the degree of an action, verbs. So, for example, había un mogollón de gente. There were lots of people. Or, se divirtieron mogollón. They have a lot of fun. Let me move over here because I want to show you something. Now that you have learned 3 phrases, I want you to show you a little pattern that you need to keep in mind. If you check these expressions, when we're using them to measure nouns, we have to use the preposition de. Un montón de tarea, un chorro de trabajo, un mogollón de gente. We always need to use the preposition de if you're talking about nouns. You don't need to use de if you're measuring an action. Okay, check again. Un montón, un chorro, mogollón. We're not talking about nouns, we're talking about actions. The next one, which is very similar to these 4 that you already learned, is un millón de. Again, un millón de. There is something special about un millón de. It only works with nouns. You cannot use it with verbs, just nouns. For example, él sabe un millón de cosas. Oh, really? That sounds smart. He knows a lot of things. Tengo un millón de cosas que hacer. I have lots of things to do. Apparently, I'm very busy according to my examples. The next one that you want to add to your vocabulary is demasiado. Again, demasiado. Demasiado expresses excess, so you want to be careful with it. In fact, it's translated as too many or too much. Demasiado works with verbs and nouns. If you're going to use it with nouns though, you need to make sure to mark the gender and the number. Let me give you some examples. Luis duerme demasiado. Luis sleeps a lot, like too much sleep, Luis. You have to work. Let me give you the next example. Hiciste demasiada comida. You prepared too much food. Really? There is not such thing as too much food. Let me show you this. Remember that I told you that if you use demasiado, you need to mark the gender. Comida is a feminine noun, so demasiado has to become demasiada to keep our sentence consistent. The next word that you can use instead of mucho is harto. Harto only works in Latin America and Spanish and is very informal. In fact, it might be the most informal expression in this list. Harto allows you to express quantities when talking about things, nouns, or actions. And of course, you have to mark the gender and number if you're working with nouns. For example, nos divertimos harto. We have a lot of fun. Tienes hartas camisas. You have loads of t-shirts. Why? Let me give you a cool tip with harto. In standard Spanish, if you say estar harto de, that allows you to express that you're fed up, that you're tired of doing something. For example, estoy harto de estudiar. I'm tired of studying. I'm fed up of studying. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be sharing videos where I give you more structures like this so you can sound more natural. Let's go check two formal expressions that you can use instead of mucho. The first one is abundante. Again, abundante. Abundante means plenty of, and it only works with nouns. This one though, it's formal, so you want to make sure that you don't use it with your friends or you're going to sound too picky. Let me give you some examples. Tenemos abundantes opciones. We have plenty of options. Tome abundante agua. Drink plenty of water. As a rule, abundante works with nouns, but check that it ends with the letter E. In Spanish, adjectives that end with E do not mark gender. However, they are going to mark number. Okay, so make sure that you keep that in mind. The next one is en demasía. Again, en demasía. This one is very, very formal. And if you compare it with demasiado, they kind of look similar, right? They are. In fact, the two of them express a little bit of excess. Let me give you some examples. Hace frío en demasía. It's very cold. O me gusta en demasía. I like him a lot. Jeez, Shakespeare, chill. En demasía only works with action and is very formal, so make sure that you use it in the correct context. Lastly but not least, muchísimo. Muchísimo is very common to use instead of mucho. In fact, it's a superlative form of mucho, and you can use it when you're measuring actions or you're measuring things. If you use it with nouns though, you have to make sure you mark the gender and number. Let me give you some examples. Luisa habla muchísimo. Luisa talks a lot. The next example. Ellos comen muchísima sal. They eat a lot of salt. Sal, believe it or not, is feminine in Spanish, so I have to use muchísima. So these expressions are very common. Now let me tell you what are my favorite expressions that I use in my daily life conversations. The first one, muchísimo. I love using muchísimo. The next one that I use is un montón, and of course because I'm Mexican, un chorro, and un millón de. Those are the expressions that I use in my daily conversations to say mucho. So before we finish this lesson, I want to remind you that you can check this same video in my Spanish immersion channel in case you're ready to start working on your listening and comprehension. So, like in English, in Spanish, we use mucho, un montón. So your job is to start replacing mucho with one of these expressions. So that's it for today, guys. If you like the video, it would really help me if you can give me a like. I hope to see you soon. Bye!